TEDx Charleston gathers inspiring people with diverse ideas to share the many untold stories of Charleston's thinkers, teachers, and visionaries. Today, I talk one-on-one with the organizer of this event, Mike Sottak, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, sponsored by the Nico Romo Hospitality Group. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Mike Sottak, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups for this interview, sponsored by the Nico Romo Hospitality Group, which owns Nico Oyster and Seafood in Mount Pleasant, Pastrami in downtown Charleston, and Lawrence Somerville and Kersey House in Somerville.
Great to be back with you, Quintin. This is like our annual tradition to talk about TedXCharleston.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm bringing you back on because obviously you are the organizer of TedXCharleston, which is an all-day immersion experience at the intersection of science, art, performance, and business. It is designed to enrich the Charleston community through presentations and entertainment that inspires, engages, and transforms. So tell me, Mike, what's new, what's now with TedXCharleston?
Well, this is our 12th year. We started this event back in 2013, believe it or not, and we've been holding it every year at the Charleston Music Hall. This year it's April 23rd at 12:30. So just get that on your calendars right up front. But what's new and what's hot is our speakers and performers. Every year we showcase a new cohort, new lineup of really thought-provoking, inspiring speakers, some of the best entertainment performance talent in the area. And we give people pretty much a full half-day immersive experience and really meant to make people think and about what's going on in the world around us. What can I relate to with these personal stories that I'm hearing up on stage? And ultimately, it's a community stage. So how can I be part of it at some point? Because all of the people on our stage are from the Charleston community.
Oh, absolutely. And a couple of them I've actually interviewed for Quintin's Close-Ups, so it's amazing to see them on the stage. What particular current issues actually matches the theme for TedXCharleston?
Yeah, so our theme this year is Thrive, which we thought was appropriate at this point in history, coming out of both, the kind of the post-COVID era when things were a little unstable and unsecure. The last couple of years, our themes were more tentative, I would say. We had themes like Uncharted and Reemerge, which were hopeful but a bit tentative. I think we're losing that tentativeness and want to be more assertive about how we think, do, and act. So I would say, this is a year where people still facing a lot of different challenges, maybe not necessarily COVID related, although there's a few health issues that we do talk about this year. But the theme is, people kind of overcoming their challenges and not just surviving, but thriving. So I think most of our performances and talks are really inspirational in that regard. And just, we try to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community and the world. Our talks kind of bridge between global issues, whether it's environment or health or science or tech. We have a talk on AI. We have a talk on Gen Z and social media, which are, all very global issues, but they're coming from local people who add a local connection and a local perspective that I think makes these TEDx events very special. Like TED Talks in general are very famous, well-known globally, but TEDx are the local versions of those. So there's over 3,000 of these events held every year all over the world. In fact, my daughter runs one in Madrid, Spain, so we keep it in the family.
Yes.
But what they're meant to be is take that TED formula, that TED structure, but bring a local connection to it.
Wow. And let me ask you, obviously you mentioned COVID, but what other challenges has TedXCharleston had to overcome over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I think, COVID definitely set us back a couple of years as it did the entire world. So we had to kind of reemerge from that as an entity. But what we found is we have a very loyal following here in Charleston. People love TedXCharleston. They have for years. So we get people coming back out to and feeling more comfortable, obviously, in a live venue, interacting in person because, we do live stream it, but it's not the same effect as being in person at the music hall. Very cool, intimate setting, and being able to interact in person with the speakers during the event and at our after party afterwards at the Share House. So, I think the changes we've made are really fine tuning the content, a little bit of the structure. We've changed it to more of a half day format, which allows more people to have access to it. We feel like than requiring a full day of in the middle of the week for people to come out. So it's actually attracted a slightly younger demographic than we've had in the past. People who are a little, the older, I include myself in that demographic. People have a little bit more flexibility in terms of work and professional life. So we wanted to help the younger people overcome that, and invite students as well. So students, particularly from the local colleges, can come out. The local high schools come out the day before for our dress rehearsal. So
Yes.
we try to make it as accessible as possible. But the content is the key, right? We've talked about how our selection process is very, rigorous. We get several hundred applications for what ends up being 13 speaker slots on the stage. So that's very selective. And the people go through a very, comprehensive interviewing process. We have a whole team that's just dedicated to selection of speakers. Zandrina Dunning, who is one of our co-MCs this year, heads up our performer selection committee. So she selects the performance acts and the artists that are going to be on stage. So yeah, it's a very selective process, and we feel good that we pick the best and the most TED-like speakers and performers that we can, which means they have a big idea, they're able to express it, and it makes people think. And one of the things we ask all of our speakers to do at some point in their talk is, what's your call to action? What do you want people to do, think, act differently when they hear your talk and leave and go back out into the community? So everybody's kind of focused on that as a takeaway from their talks.
What TEDx speaker or what TEDx local talk has actually made TEDx Charleston act differently when it comes to this approach, when it comes to obviously content?
Yeah. Oh my God. We've had so many great talks over the years. It's hard to pick just one. Just thinking back on the last couple of years, one of my favorites is a guy named John Rhodes, who's a pediatric heart surgeon at MUSC,
Wow.
but he also was diagnosed with dyslexia very early on in his life. So, but he persevered, went through school, med school, professional ranks with this, challenge, and is now a very prominent surgeon and medical professional here in our community, actually nationwide. So he's one of my favorites. Last year we had a guy named Ben Toll, who is a local chef, restaurant owner, Basic Kitchen and Sullivan's Fish Camp and Post House Inn on Mount Pleasant. Right. So his story was kind of a reemergence of COVID. Him and his partner, business partner, literally rowed a boat across the Atlantic Ocean and did it 40 days, strictly under manual power, no engine. And his tale is one of, discovering himself. He was not a rower, not a physical guy. Got himself and his partner into physical shape, and they undertook this challenge. And so it was a very inspiring story, but he had some good life lessons that even if you're not going to row a boat across the Atlantic Ocean, you can still take away. So I don't know. Each speaker is unique. I always say, if you come to TEDx Charleston, I guarantee you'll find one or two people that resonate personally with you, either because you have a similar issue or challenge or experience, or you're just thinking about something. We have a speaker this year who talks about living with people with autism and engaging people with autism, which is a bit of a awkward subject sometimes for people, but I think this talk is going to be an eye opener in terms of, okay, let's take the mystery out of it and understand what autism is really like and how we can all live together. So there's a few talks like that, a few talks about people overcoming personal medical type of issues, health issues, which one way or another, we're all affected by people with health issues, whether it's us personally, people in our family, diseases, that type of thing. So I think those are always powerful talks because they're so unfortunately commonplace in our community. But living and dealing with people with medical issues is always an important topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And, everybody knows my story. My mom survived breast cancer many, many years ago. And through the grace of God, she's living now. So that's really amazing. But
yeah, my wife is a cancer survivor too. So she's just 5 years clear now. So
wow.
I empathize with you, and then I think there's a lot of people that it's a crazy amount of people who have experienced that. Some sort of cancer, but breast cancer specifically is one that's so prevalent.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Hopefully, you can get a curve for that soon as well.
Yeah.
Um, obviously, you've told there's been so many local TED Talks over the years. What are those mysteries that still need to be untold from a local standpoint?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think, we have so many issues, challenges, interesting things. I mean, we're fortunate that we live in a place that's so diverse, from a talent standpoint, the performance talents, as you know well, there's so many great performers and entertainers and artists in our community. We have the medical community, which is doing amazing things at the hospitals here and the research going on here. We have the tech industry, which is really blossoming now, and so it's a work in progress. I feel like in Charleston, TEDx Charleston is just a stage, a platform where we can talk about what's new and interesting on a local level. But like I said, most of the things, most of the talks have, global ramifications. So, we do have a talk on AI. We do have a talk on social media. But then we dive into other topics. We have a gentleman who's the state liaison to Native American community. He's a Native American guy, and his talk is all about the history of Native Americans and the current state in our state of South Carolina, which is, a bit of not so well known part of our culture and community. I feel like, as far as their history and their impact and the challenges they've endured. So he talks a lot about what his family, he talks about his grandfather, what he endured during, earlier generations. So we try to paint a wide brush in terms of the topics. That's part of our selection process, is making sure we touch upon different kind of key buckets of topics, whether that's science or tech or health or culture or social issues, those types of things. So that's important that we have a diverse and also a diverse set of speakers, right? We've got people that are young. We've got a 22-year-old girl, and we've got older people. We've got men and women from different backgrounds, different races, different cultures. So that's what makes it really interesting. Is it's a good window into a lot of different topics through a lot of different people's lenses, which I think makes it an interesting day.
And you touched upon this earlier, Mike, but who exactly is your audience?
That's a good question too. We have a loyal following, like I said, of core TEDx groupies, I call them, who show up all the time. But I think people kind of look at the lineup of speakers, which is available on our website, TedXCharleston.org, and kind of see what resonates with them. Like I said, we've in the past skewed toward slightly middle-aged, older demographic, more of a downtown demographic. I think as Charleston has changed, we've changed, and so we get we see much more influence from a younger part of our community. Not just downtown, people living in North Charleston and West Ashley and all over the place. So we're drawing people in from a broader area. So I would say it's an evolving demographic, it's an evolving audience. I think the common thread is they're interesting people who are interested in interesting ideas, and that's what TED is all about. Whether you go to the big TED conferences and pay thousands of dollars to attend to hear Elon Musk or Bill Gates, or you come to our local event, which we have our own local celebrities. People like Carolyn Murray is one of our speakers. He's a media professional like yourself. We've had some semi-famous local people on our stage, and we continue that tradition. But we don't pick them because of their fame or celebrity. We pick them because they come to us and said, "I've got an idea. I think I could be TED Talk worthy." So, it's a good mix of people. Some people have never spoken publicly before, so that's why we put them through a pretty rigorous coaching process for several months, where we're getting them in TED Talk shape so that they get out there and do a good job. And there is a formula, there is a process for how TED Talks need to go. It's very different than other public speaking. It's short. Their talks are 10, 12 minutes long. You have to have a good idea, and you have to be able to get that across in a relatively short amount of time, and do it without notes or speaking from a prompt or
Right.
anything like that. So there's not a big safety net out there, so that's why we like people to feel confident. Just this week, we're going through a dry run at the music hall where they get to walk through their whole talk on stage, no audience, but at least gives them a little bit more comfort and confidence that they can deliver from the big stage.
Oh yes. This might be an off the topic question, Mike, but let me ask you: in this day and age with social media and all the social issues that are going on and whatnot, what exactly is the art of public speaking?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think when we have One Talk that talks about this, it's engaging with people in real life, right? Social media has overwhelmed us, overtaken our senses, and particularly younger people, but all people, myself, we spend way too much time on social media, and looking at these highlight reels of life where we just see the good things, or maybe that we only see negative things, depending on how the algorithms find you. So I think the thing about TED and TEDx is it's an in-person event, right? I think to get the most out of it, yeah, we promote it on social media. Yes, we live stream it. You can watch it. But the best experience is to be there live, interacting in real time, in real life with people, and get off social media for a while. Take an afternoon off from your cell phone, and just enjoy live entertainment, be in the moment. And yeah, so it's that kind of experience that I think is even more important now, with in the age of social media and fake news, artificial intelligence, all of the stuff that we have to deal with on a daily basis in the virtual world. We try to have a little bit of an escape from that in our real world experience at TEDx.
What is it like to be there in that moment at the music hall on the day of TEDx?
For me, it's very stressful.
Oh.
We hope it's not stressful for the audience.
No.
It's not that stressful. We've got it down. We've got a great team of volunteers. We're an all volunteer organization, and honestly, they're a fantastic team. We couldn't do it without. It takes a village, really. Even though it only happens once a year, it's pretty much a year-round planning and process. But to be there live, I mean, like I said, I think if you don't come away with at least one compelling thought, action, call to action, then we haven't done our job. I feel like we present 13 really interesting speakers, the performers. If you're not entertained and you're not provoked, from an intellectual standpoint, then we haven't done our job. So, and I don't think that translates into the video. So we videotape everybody. We upload those videos onto the Big TED YouTube channel, so they're available. We've had people with over 1 million views on YouTube from our event, and that's another kind of benefit and an extension of what we do. But I still feel like for those couple hours when you're in the music hall and you're right there in the presence of these people, and then can interact with them afterwards, that's kind of the magic of the event.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of the event, you talked earlier about TedXCharleston.com. I know that you all are
.org.
.org.
Sorry,
Pardon me. I'm so sorry about that. TedXCharleston.org. Obviously, you sold out the early bird tickets. So where are we right now with tickets leading up to?
We still have some tickets left. I wouldn't drag my feet if I wanted to buy tickets because they're moving right along. I get my reports from the box office, and we expect another sellout. So I would say if you want tickets, act now. We are considering a little quickie flash sale toward the end of the month, so be on the lookout for that. Follow us on our socials: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or stay in touch with our website. But yeah, it typically is a sellout. The event itself is great. Then we do an after party across the street at the Share House. This year we've got some great local restaurants lined up to do a little Taste of Charleston event that kind of, people are hungry after hearing all these TED Talks, so they come over and, there's a bar and then these, we've got 8 or 10 restaurants that are pretty well known in the community, and we thank them as being our food hosts for the late afternoon part of the thing. And yeah, it's just a great chance to interact with some fantastic people. We've got Zandrina Dunning and Stephen Washington running the show for us this year. They're great people. They're really into it. They're great entertainers. They're going to keep it moving along. They're our host and hostess for the afternoon. So I think just seeing them on stage is always a treat for me. So Yeah, it's shaping up to be a great event, but get your tickets now before they're all gone. Because, like I said, the live experience is really the true TEDx experience that we people seem to get the most out of, and there's only a limited number of seats available for that.
Oh, yes. And you talked earlier, Mike, obviously about people coming from all over Somerville, here in North Charleston, downtown, Mount Pleasant. How exactly does TEDx actually grow with Smartville with all these people moving into Charleston?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about some options. One would be to do a second event at some point. I'm not sure we're ready for that. Again, we're all volunteers. We all
Right.
have day jobs, so
Right.
that's a big undertaking. We've talked about moving the venue, but we're just in love with the music hall. They're so good to us, and it's such a cool venue. It's such a perfect venue that I feel like something would be lost if we went to, the Coliseum or some other big venue, because there is an intimacy about the event that we don't want to lose. So to answer your question, I'm not sure. I mean, I know Charleston's growing, everything's growing around here. We probably could use a second event at some point to accommodate the interest. But again, I think it's a little bit constrained by the type of venue we like to put it in. I don't see us being a big stadium event. Most TEDx's are pretty small. Under 1,000 people is typically the attendance of a TEDx event. I tell you, if it's important for you to experience a TEDx event, buy a ticket quickly, and don't be left out. Of course, our talks are always available online as well. But yeah, and we do want to appeal to as vast a physical area as we can, with the understanding that we have a limited physical space to accommodate people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Mike Sottak with TedXCharleston. Thank you for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups for this interview, sponsored by the Nico Romo Hospitality Group.
Thank you so much, Quintin. We appreciate everything you do for us.
Well, thank you all. Love the community.